Hello, this lecture will focus on supporting play for families with young children. And an overview of this lecture is today I will be talking about the importance of play, caregivers' role in play, and then we will go through some of the stages of early childhood. So the importance of play, just a definition before we get started. The mission of play is that it is supposed to be self-led. It is a process rather than focusing on the end result, and it's supposed to be fun. So you may consider the example of a child running, frog hopping, rather than running at a competition for a medal. So play is fun and it is not stressful, and it helps children to grow, learn, and develop. And as I have a quote here from Maria Montessori, play is children's work. She says that play, again, play is children's work, and she has a very unique and interesting method for education that allows for more flexibility in children's choice. This method is about what and how they learn. So play activities involve all type of activities, exploration, collaborating with others. And this is a way children learn how to classify objects, how to communicate with other children and with other people, how to cooperate, negotiate. And they also learn to know what they would like to do. So it's important that adults guide children through this process. It is important for adults to help children to develop a lifelong curiosity in the world around them, but also their cognitive and social development. So in his book, Free to Learn, Peter Gray describes 6 types of play, and they don't necessarily happen one at a time. Children can be engaged in multiple types of play at the same time. So first we have here physical play, which involves jumping or running. And this type of play helps to develop the children's muscles and coordination. So activities such as wrestling and sport activities help children also to learn limits and boundaries, and where they need to draw the line, and where they also have to, when they also have to control their impulses. So next, language play starts early at even, from 2 months with cooing, and as toddlers, they also make different sounds with their mouths. Later, after, they're a little bit older, during middle childhood, they start learning rhymes and jokes, and they also come up sometimes with their own language. And then we have exploratory play, which is investigating things, checking things out, the way they smell, how it tastes, what sounds they make, taking a hike, for example, is an example of these kind of activities, walking around the block and seeing the world through their eyes. And I have a quote from Albert Einstein here, which says, play is the highest form of research. So again, it's a way to explore the world and for them to learn about how, things work, how they smell, taste, through their own eyes. And next we have constructive play, which is play with the goal of producing or creating something, and it will help their hand-eye coordination, fine motor skills, and they can develop basic engineering abilities, and it also involves creativity and self-expression. And also similar with fantasy play, and it's a way for children to explore roles and relationships, what others look like, sound like, how they behave towards one another. So let's, allow kids practice different roles and relationships, and also challenge norms, but it should also be fun for them. Finally, social play allows children to learn to communicate with one another, to learn how to take turns, negotiate, and express what it is that they want. Uh, so again, these are, some basic definitions of play, the importance of play, and, the different types of play and how it impacts children. So what is a caregiver's role, or what should be the caregiver's role in play? So play experiences must be created, and this is something social workers must help caregivers to make sure that play is developmentally appropriate. So it doesn't have to be the latest gear. Sometimes children prefer to have the large box that a toy comes in rather than the expensive toy itself. So you can build blocks, take a hike, build a fort, design a balance beam, a number of things that you can plan ahead of time for a child to experience and develop from. So sometimes as adults, it is really hard for us not to take the lead, take control, or take over a play activity. So it is important for us as social workers to remind caregivers to provide children the freedom to explore and remind them that children explore things in a sensory way. They are little scientists, and that's what, how they learn. And you also want to plan guided exploration, provide the material for them to explore, consider the child's interest in the space that is safe in advance. Issues, you should also consider issues that might come up or how you can make it a better experience. It's a great challenge. Again, sometimes to facilitate discovery and creativity. But, the point is to help children succeed and be independent, give them the freedom to choose and self-direct. And that can be difficult, and that's why it is important to talk to caregivers. It is important to plan in advance and allow the child to self-direct. You also want to talk, or encourage caregivers to talk as children play and verbalize encouragement. Say things like, oh, I see that you chose some red blocks. Just, to stay engaged, for the children to know that you are there and that they are encouraging, or you are encouraging what they do, or caregivers are encouraging what their children do. And also, it is important not to discourage them or rebuke them for their mistakes. For example, if they spill the bottle of bubbles, you must show them how to place a bottle without spilling, how to build a structure without falling, but it takes practice. And adults need to manage their own expectations, because sometimes children are not interested in what you're trying to teach them. So now let's go over the different stages. So during this stage of 12 to 18 months, we have motor skills that children develop, such as crawling, walking, sitting, pulling, throwing, pointing, scribbling, trying to eat and drink. And we have Piaget's tertiary reaction, which means that we are looking at basic actions and what type of response you get. And the kid is looking at basic actions and what kind of a response you get. When they make a sound, what does mommy do? Or what does daddy do? Babies are watching to see what a caregiver would do when they fall or cry. And at this stage, babies can follow simple directions such as sit. And sometimes, as caregivers may think that they can provide multiple directions, such as go to the bathroom, get this and put it on the table. But children are not developmental ready for those kind of more multi-step directions. So we need to help caregivers to be more realistic. And also, in this stage, children are engaging in solitary play, meaning that they are not engaging in play with others for the most part, and they are pulling or pushing items around. which helps them understand their world. And they will maneuver toys by interlocking pieces. They might also have the ability to climb and ride toys at this age. So when you are looking at the caregiver and child relationship, it is important to encourage caregivers to read simple books together, help children learn different animal noises and imitate them. And they may also help children identify different body parts, such as, their mouth, their eyes, their head, their hands, etc. And in this stage, it is important for the child to explore and develop physically and cognitively. In the next stage, between 18 and 2 years, children can normally go upstairs with a hand. They can run, they can jump, they can squat, they can tiptoe, they can throw a kick so that they can become more agile and mobile. And Piaget has a mental representation milestone, which means that children will search for an item that is out of their sight. So while object permanent starts also since or later, this concept continues during this stage, and it means that a child might think, oh, I want my bunny, and they might go searching for their bunny. A mental representation of something remains in their mind even when it is out of sight. So they exercise this by playing hide and seek with items, so that they can practice the concept of being out of sight, but it's still present. So it is important for caregivers to practice at this stage, and you might hide in the same place, for example, but enjoy, that moment and giggle. And children during this stage should learn about a new one new word per week roughly, and they can also follow more complicated directions, such as go to your chair and sit down. So a child caretaker should be realistic about what a child can understand and respond to. At this stage, children can also start to participate in parallel play, and they are more interested, but they are still more interested in independent play. But they may, start, you or caregivers can be there and just watch, as children play independently side by side. And in this stage, exploration may be encouraged by having a sandbox, tub, and giving children containers to fill and scoop with, dump into a bucket. And in this help them understand how all of these things work. Other types of play could include reading books, dolls, and puppets to practice imitation. And social workers should support the caregiver-child relationship by letting children do it themselves. And they should also have tolerance for children to do it themselves. And social workers can help caregivers understand the reality of this stage and the importance of understanding that they should allow these things to happen. They should allow children to go through this process and for them to learn, and understand, helping the caregiver understand that there will be messiness during this process. An important part that the textbook emphasizes is not chastising the child for accidents, including the pattern training during this time. So, and between 2 and 3 years during this stage, children may start to riding tricycles, catching a ball, drawing shapes, using scissors, building towers, climbing, using silverware. And they are also using more of their fine motor skills, which allows them to do things such as stacking and drawing. And Piaget's preconceptual stage involves using symbols to represent something else. So this is a stage where children begin to bathe themselves and engage in pretend play. At this stage, children are understood by most adults when they speak, and they are beginning to use 2 to 3 word sentences, and they start to recognize and name their emotions, and also aggression might emerge from some children, and they might form an attachment to an item such as teddy bear to help them or suit themselves. And they can also usually identify their gender or race during this stage. And Erickson says that this is an autonomy versus shame stage. So, and what it means is that they have a growing sense of self, and they want to have parental approval and want to take pride in achieving things. So here we start to see the social side, and relationships begin to develop with the caregiver. And at this stage, you may want to start to see associative play. So children may begin to share their toys with peers. They might start to identify and pretend different emotions. They may enjoy dressing up and replicating with toys, dolls, and other toys, using markers, colors, crayons. And they also begin to categorize things, and they can enjoy, this process of play as well. So parents or caregivers can encourage this by getting specific things of a color, you know, praise, encourage important tasks that are completed. Caregivers can also encourage skills such as sharing, building together, or doing things together, or negotiating. And children will thrive in environments that have a variety of objects to explore together. And caregivers should encourage choice in what children do. Introducing board games may be difficult still, and parents may need guidance and engaging their children and helping them to learn and grow. So finally, here we have ages 4 to 7. And during this stage, some motor skills include drawing within lines, cutting shapes, jumping rope, doing more complex activities. And Piaget's intuitive stage is taking place, and children are able to categorize items even more with fine detail. They start taking part of transductive reasoning, which means that they are deducting what has happened before and deciding what is likely to happen again in similar circumstances. And they might start to shed egocentric thought. In this stage, children may also start to show sympathy, more pro-social behavior, and they may start to realize that other kids have other beliefs, and this can lead to a self-evaluation. And there's also an increase in cultural identification and genitals in the body. And Erickson says that there is a focus outside of the family during this stage. So in play during this stage, children take part of cooperative play. For example, team sports, peer relationships are more important, and they engage in even more fine motor activities such as stringing beans, using stencils, playing board games that require higher cognitive skills. So it is important for caretakers to understand the type of play the child likes. For example, children may love to paint with a chalk outside of the sidewalk. And caregivers can support growth and development during this stage through dramatic play, helping the child to develop empathy. So you can imagine, over traumatized emotions, and it's important for the caregiver to teach children how to manage and express emotions in a healthy manner. It's important for parents to guide them during sport activities, teach them cooperation, negotiation, to maintain a relationship, and how to manage and express anger in a healthy way. Games for this age group, such as Jenga, um, there's a Jenga where you can you must describe emotions. depending on what's written in the block at different stages. Hopefully this, you can, tell your child depending on what is written on the Jenga, describe a time when you felt angry. So again, these are different ways of how you can help caregivers support a healthy development during this stage. So hopefully this was helpful to learn about the different stages and also to help facilitate the relationship with parents. Thank you.